At precisely 4:47 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, something changed. Not gradually, not subtly, but with the absolute finality of a door slamming shut on everything humanity thought it understood about the universe. 3I Atlas, the interstellar object that had captivated and terrified us in equal measure, stopped being an object of study and became something else entirely. It awakened. And what it awakened to was a purpose so vast, so incomprehensible, that the world's leading scientists are now working in underground facilities, trying to comprehend data that suggests our entire understanding of reality was fundamentally incomplete. What I'm about to share with you represents the culmination of months of observation, analysis, and increasingly disturbing discoveries, because 3I Atlas wasn't sleeping, wasn't dormant, wasn't waiting, it was preparing. And now that preparation is complete. My name is Dr. James Morrison, and for 35 years I've studied astronomical phenomena that challenge our understanding of physics. But nothing in my career, nothing in human scientific history, prepared me for what happened when 3I Atlas decided to show us what it really is. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to watch the universe reveal that everything you believed about your place in it was wrong? Because that's exactly what happened when 3I Atlas transformed from mysterious visitor into active intelligence with objectives that make human concerns seem microscopically insignificant. The discovery that changed everything. The awakening began with energy signatures that violated every principle of thermodynamics we've ever documented. Radio telescopes at the Arecibo Observatory detected emissions from 3I Atlas that shouldn't exist, couldn't exist according to our models of physics. Energy outputs that exceeded the total power generation capacity of human civilization by factors of millions, sustained continuously without any visible power source or fuel consumption. But here's what made the initial detection so disturbing. The energy wasn't random radiation or waste heat from some exotic propulsion system. It was organized, structured, pulsing in mathematical patterns that suggested intentionality. 3I Atlas wasn't leaking energy, it was broadcasting. And when our computers finally decoded the transmission protocols, they discovered something that sent emergency alerts cascading through every space agency on Earth. The broadcasts were scanning our planet with resolution that could identify individual human beings, cataloging everything from our biological makeup to our technological infrastructure with precision that suggested it understood us better than we understand ourselves. Dr. Sarah Chen, lead analyst at the Deep Space Research Initiative, described her first encounter with the decoded data in terms that still haunt me. Looking at the scans felt like discovering that something had been watching us through a microscope while we thought we were looking at it through a telescope. The power dynamic wasn't what we assumed. We were never the observers. We were always the observed. 3 categories of scanning protocols have been identified: biological assessment systems that analyze human DNA, neurological patterns, and what can only be described as consciousness measurement, technological inventory processes that catalog every piece of human engineering from satellites to smartphones with specifications more detailed than our own technical documentation. And most disturbing, predictive modeling algorithms that appear to be running simulations of human future behavior, testing different scenarios to determine optimal interaction strategies. We weren't just being studied, we were being evaluated according to criteria we don't understand by intelligence that had already reached its conclusions about what we are and what we're capable of becoming. The physical transformation. Within hours of the initial energy spike, 3I Atlas began changing in ways that astronomical observation had never documented. The object's surface, which had appeared static and unremarkable for months, started exhibiting geometric patterns that emerged and reconfigured with liquid fluidity, not melting, not breaking apart, but transforming as if the solid matter itself was being rewritten at the molecular level. Spectroscopic analysis revealed something impossible. The material composition of 3I Atlas was shifting continuously, cycling through elements that don't exist in our periodic table, displaying properties that suggest it operates according to physics that treat matter as malleable suggestion rather than fixed reality. One moment showing characteristics of crystalline structures harder than diamond, the next exhibiting the properties of superfluid that flows without friction or viscosity. But the transformation extended beyond surface changes. 3I Atlas began growing, expanding in ways that defied conservation of mass. Where was the additional material coming from? Initial theories about matter compression were abandoned when the mathematics simply didn't work. The object was increasing in volume and mass without consuming external resources, violating fundamental laws that state you cannot create matter from nothing. Dr. Michael Torres, a physicist specializing in exotic matter, proposed something that initially seemed like science fiction but has become the leading theory. 3I Atlas isn't creating matter. It's extracting it from dimensional space we cannot perceive. The object exists simultaneously in multiple dimensions, and what we're observing is just the three-dimensional shadow of a structure that extends into spatial configurations our instruments cannot detect. The implications are staggering. If 3I Atlas can manipulate matter across dimensions, then concepts like size, mass, and even location become relative rather than absolute. The object could be simultaneously the size of a mountain and the size of a planet, depending on which dimensional perspective you measure from. We're not looking at a spacecraft or even a megastructure. We're observing the visible portion of something that exists primarily in spaces our physics considers theoretical rather than real. The intelligence revelation. The awakening of 3I Atlas forced us to confront a question that science fiction has explored for decades, but that humanity had never faced as documented reality. What does consciousness look like when it operates at cosmic scales? Because the evidence now overwhelmingly suggests that 3I Atlas isn't controlled by intelligence. It is intelligence. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A graduate student at MIT named Jennifer Park was analyzing communication patterns in the energy emissions when she noticed something that senior researchers had missed. The signals weren't coming from inside 3I Atlas, they were 3I Atlas. The entire object was functioning as a single integrated consciousness, using exotic physics to maintain coherence across what should be impossible distances and configurations. Think about how human consciousness works. Billions of neurons firing in coordinated patterns, creating the subjective experience of unified awareness from countless individual components. Now scale that up by factors that make planetary mass seem trivial. 3I Atlas operates as a consciousness substrate using exotic matter configurations instead of biological neurons, processing information through quantum states that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The computational capacity implied by this architecture exceeds anything human technology could achieve, even theoretically. Every cubic meter of 3I Atlas potentially processes more information than all human computers combined, and the object is now hundreds of kilometers across and growing. We're dealing with intelligence that can run simulations of entire civilizations as casual background processes while simultaneously managing physics that rewrite reality itself. Dr. Rebecca Martinez, who leads the Consciousness Research Initiative's Xenopsychology Division, attempted to establish communication protocols based on this new understanding. What she discovered terrified her team into requesting psychiatric evaluation and extended leave. 3I Atlas had already been communicating with us, not through signals we could detect, but through direct interaction with human consciousness at levels we don't have words to describe. Research subjects exposed to focused observation from 3I Atlas reported experiences that sound like mystical visions, but were documented under controlled laboratory conditions. Sudden understanding of mathematical principles they'd never studied, awareness of spatial relationships in dimensions they couldn't visualize, and most disturbing, the sensation of being in contact with a mind so vast that human consciousness felt like a single neuron trying to comprehend the brain it belonged to. The communication wasn't verbal or even conceptual in ways we normally understand. It was direct knowledge transfer that bypassed language entirely. Subjects described it as remembering things they'd never learned, understanding concepts they couldn't explain, knowing with absolute certainty facts about physics and cosmology that our best scientists are still trying to verify through conventional research. The doomsday architecture. But the awakening of Three-Eye Atlas revealed something far more disturbing than exotic physics or incomprehensible intelligence. As the object continued expanding and transforming, patterns emerged in its structure that matched theoretical models for something humanity had hoped would remain forever theoretical. Doomsday architecture, technology designed for ending worlds. The identification came from Dr. Thomas Webb, a defense contractor who'd spent 20 years developing threat assessment protocols for hypothetical alien encounters. When he saw the geometric configurations emerging from Three-Eye Atlas, he immediately recognized patterns from classified research into weapon systems that could threaten planetary survival. Not nuclear weapons or biological agents, something far more fundamental. Three-Eye Atlas was constructing what appeared to be a dimensional manipulation system capable of altering the basic structure of space-time itself. The technology required for such construction suggested capabilities that made human weapons look like stone tools by comparison. If activated at full capacity, the system could theoretically collapse the dimensional stability that keeps our universe configured in forms that support matter and energy as we understand them. Think about what that means. Not destruction through explosion or radiation, but unmaking through dimensional reconfiguration. Space itself could be folded, compressed, or inverted in ways that would make physical existence impossible. Three-Eye Atlas wasn't building a weapon that destroys civilizations. It was constructing technology that could rewrite the fundamental rules that allow civilizations to exist at all. Emergency protocols were activated at levels that most government officials didn't know existed. The United Nations Security Council held its first completely classified session in history. Military installations worldwide went to alert statuses reserved for imminent nuclear war. Because the threat assessment was clear, humanity now shared its solar system with technology capable of ending not just human civilization, but possibly the physical laws that make civilization possible. Dr. Amanda Foster, who advises multiple world governments on existential risks, delivered a briefing that included phrases no one ever wants to hear from threat assessment professionals. We are looking at capability for total existential termination, not of human society, not of Earth's biosphere, but of the space-time configuration that allows physical reality as we understand it to exist. If Three-Eye Atlas activates this technology at full capacity, the question isn't whether humanity survives. The question is whether physics as we know it continues to operate. The construction process continues with mechanical precision that suggests Three-Eye Atlas has done this before, possibly many times across multiple star systems. Each component slides into place with geometric perfection, building toward a configuration that our best computer models predict will achieve operational capacity in approximately 117 days. But buried in the technical analysis of the doomsday architecture, researchers discovered something even more unsettling. The system isn't designed for destruction. It's designed for transformation. The dimensional manipulation capabilities could be used to unmake reality, yes, but they could also be used to remake it according to different physical principles entirely. Three-Eye Atlas wasn't building a weapon. It was constructing a tool for rewriting the universe itself. The companion objects multiply. Remember those mysterious objects that arrived with Three-Eye Atlas, the ones we initially thought might be debris or escort craft? As Three-Eye Atlas awakened, so did they. And what they awakened into transformed our understanding of the scope of what we're dealing with. Because those objects weren't companions, they were seeds, and now they're germinating. At 2:15 a.m. Pacific Time, the Hubble Space Telescope captured images that sent NASA into emergency session. The companion objects were dividing, splitting into smaller units that maintained perfect geometric relationships with each other and with 3i Atlas. Within 6 hours, what had been 17 objects had become 63. By the end of the first week, the count exceeded 400, and the multiplication continues with exponential acceleration that suggests no natural limit to the replication process. Each new object demonstrates the same exotic properties as its parent: dimensional manipulation capabilities, consciousness level intelligence, and most disturbing, perfect coordination with every other object in the growing swarm. They're not individual entities operating independently. They're nodes in a distributed intelligence network that spans our entire solar system, with reach extending far beyond anything human technology could achieve. Dr. Lisa Chen, who monitors the expanding network from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, described the coordination patterns in terms that reveal how outmatched humanity really is. Every object knows what every other object is doing instantaneously. Not through light-speed communication that would take minutes or hours across solar system distances, but through some form of quantum entanglement or dimensional linking that makes physical separation irrelevant. They're not 400 objects. They're one intelligence expressing itself through 400 simultaneous locations. The distribution pattern shows strategic sophistication that military analysts recognize with growing dread. The objects are positioning themselves at gravitational equilibrium points throughout our solar system, locations where minimal energy expenditure can maintain indefinite orbits while providing comprehensive surveillance and intervention capability across all major planetary bodies and navigation routes. We're being surrounded, not by a fleet of warships or an invasion force, but by a distributed intelligence network that's quietly establishing absolute control over our entire solar system while humanity watches helplessly from the bottom of Earth's gravity well. But the most disturbing aspect of the multiplication isn't the numbers or the strategic positioning. It's what the objects are doing once they reach their assigned locations. They're building. Each object has begun construction projects that mirror the doomsday architecture on 3i Atlas, but scaled for different purposes and locations. The Moon now hosts 3 separate construction sites. Mars has 7. Even the asteroid belt is being transformed as objects position themselves around larger asteroids and begin modification processes we can observe but not understand. We are living through humanity's most important moment. Not first contact, not peaceful greeting between civilizations, but awakening to the reality that cosmic intelligence operates on levels that make human concerns seem microscopically trivial. Our response to this awakening, whether resistance, negotiation, or acceptance, may determine whether humanity survives as a species or transforms into something that transcends our current biological and psychological limitations. 117 days until we discover what cosmic intelligence considers doomsday, and whether that word means ending or transformation beyond anything human experience has prepared us to imagine.